Today we are going to go through the process of building assets in the Quartic Platform, which contextualizes your data based on your equipment, so your physical asset model. You'll have reactors, pumps, process lines, whatever assets you have in your process. Tie your raw tags, quality measurements, and other data types to those assets. Once built, this contextualized data layer is then exposed throughout the rest of the platform, as well as Quartic's API and SDK, making it faster and easier for users to find, understand, and use the data for trending, dashboarding, analytics, whatever they need to do. And it's this ease of access that makes your data exponentially more valuable. So with that, let's navigate into the Quartic Platform. As a precursor to building these assets, I've already set up what we call classes, which serve as templates for your process units and also for your assets. So I've created a polymerization unit class and also a heat exchanger and chemical reactor asset classes. This was done in a previous video already, so we'll use this as a starting point. So now I want to instantiate both my process unit and then the assets that are part of that process unit. So to do this, I will come into Asset Harbor and then into my chemicals manufacturing site. Within here, you'll see there's nothing here currently because I'm starting from scratch, so I will add a process unit here. And I'll start with the polymerization unit. So this is going to be polymerization line 1. This is located in my Chicago site in building 102. And then my capacity of this is 100 kilograms per hour. That's my output. So that's all I need to do to instantiate the process unit, and then I could also add multiple lines here, which I can go back and do later. But for now, I want to take the next step of adding in an asset. So click this Add Asset button over on the right. And I'll start with a heat exchanger here. So this is going to be heat exchanger 001. And now I need to choose the tag. So I've already configured my data source connectivity. So I have, for my line 1, some OPC UA tags coming in here. And I know these all have L1 in the name, so I'll search based on that. Now I have all these L1 tags that I can select. And once selected, I can add all these over, and now I'll be able to see all those line 1 tags available. The next step is choosing my asset operation type. So this is a heat exchanger, so this is a continuous piece of equipment. My state identifier is this line state, so it's getting it from the process unit side of things. And my stop value is stopped, otherwise it's running. And then I also have an alarm tag configured, so heat exchanger alarm. And then I can set my last overhaul date as well as my installation date. So I'll say that this was done, say, on January 1st of this year. I'll set my manufacturer of this asset. And then what I can do at the bottom here, so when I set up my asset class, I set up alias tag. So this ensures consistency. If I have multiple heat exchangers maybe coming from different manufacturers that have different sensors or different tag names, this allows me to standardize all those tags. So I can come in, for example, and find my fouling factor and map that in. I can find my equipment alert, this alarm tag, my hot side outlet temperature. So all these I can start mapping these tags through. So I'll go through and do this. All right, so now I've finished mapping all of my tags. Now this is done, I can come up top, save my asset, enter my username and password. This is for electronic signature and tracking an audit trail. And now I have my heat exchanger configured. So this was, again, a continuous asset. I also want to add in a reactor just to show you what adding a batch asset would look like and the slight differences there. So I'll come in and add in a chemical reactor. This is going to be RXT001. All my tags associated with this are under my OPC DA data source. So again, I can tie into different data sources here within my site. So now all my tags are listed out there. And again, this is going to be a batch operation for this particular asset. And now this has different batch specific tags, which then this batch context will also be exposed to the rest of the platform. So we'll have my asset context and also some of my batch context. So I can come in here and say this is my batch phase tag. I'll define that. I have a tag for my batch ID. Recipe, I don't have a tag for that, so I'll leave that blank. My batch start phase is going to be when the reactor is charged, and stop is when I begin transferring material out. Then similar to the continuous, I can also set my asset state identifier. So this is just my status tag. And then my status has two possible values, stopped or running. So my stop value here is stopped, so I'll set that. And then I do have an alarm tag configured here as well, so this is just my alarm state. My last overhaul date, I'll say this one was actually done back on February 1st, and my manufacturer of this is Stryker Labs. And I've only set up one alias tag just to keep this simple here. I have my reactor temperature, which is set to this temperature.pv tag. So that's all I have to do to set up this reactor. Again, just notice the slight differences between if I configure this as a batch asset versus continuous, where all I had was my state identifier. So I can save this off as before, enter my username and password. And now I have this process unit and two different asset classes. Now I can continue building this one out, but just to show you a more complete one that has a bunch of assets, so we don't have to spend a lot of time going through this, I'll come back into Asset Harbor, upper level, navigate into my Pharmaco site. And within here, you'll be able to see a number of different process units. So I have my purification, clarification, fermentation, sterilization. So if you're familiar with a pharmaceutical process, we have the upstream component, the downstream component, and sterilization. Under each one of these, I have all my individual assets listed out. So I just wanted to use this to show you kind of a more complete hierarchy of what you can do. And you can see my asset type, my names, and all these parts highlighted in the lighter gray. Those are the classes that my assets are built on. Now the nice thing about building these assets, I said earlier that this is now exposing this context layer into the rest of the platform. So now if I come into, say, Project Builder, which is where I go to build my machine learning models, I can start a new project, and maybe I want to do a fouling factor prediction. Now what I can do is just come in, tie into this heat exchanger that I just created, and select my target that I want to predict, and you can see all the tags I created in that heat exchanger. All those alias tags are now listed out, so I can just choose my fouling factor. I don't need to go in and choose specific tags or type out a long tag name coming from a control system. These are all built off of those alias tags that I've set up in that context, so this whole list is already here. So that's one place where the tags are exposed, is going in and building these machine learning models. Another place, if I come into self-service analytics, where I can do some trending, I can come into that same site, into my polymerization line, choose either my reactor or my heat exchanger, and again, all my tags are listed out. So this is really the beauty of using this Asset Harbor, the contextualization layer. They're making it faster and easier to find and consume your process data. And that's really all there is to it. That covers how to build assets in the Quartic platform, building that contextualization layer. As always, if you have any questions, please reach out to us here at Quartic AI.